The House on Thursday, they passed this legislation to stop the preferential treatment status that the United States will give with Russia. Of course, this is over Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It was an overwhelming vote. It was 424 to 8. And Chuck Schumer over in the Senate said he's going to try and make sure he hurries it on through the Senate to make sure this gets somewhere far. Now, remember I said 424 to 8. There was 8. There was 8 folks who voted against this. They were all Republicans. Let's go to those. Lauren Boebert, unsurprising. Thomas Massie, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dan Bishop, Chip Roy, and Glenn Grothman. A few of those you will hear from soon. But of course, there was immediate response talking about why they did this from a few of them. So I'm all for explanations. Let's start with Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she released this, I believe the day before when they were talking about what they were going to do. This is what she really feels her constituents really care about other than this.
When my constituents from Georgia call into my office here in Washington, D.C., there is only one thing on their minds. Hardworking Americans living paycheck to paycheck don't care about foreign wars or foreign borders. They care about gas prices back home. They care about runaway inflation and the fact that a used car or truck costs 40% more today than it did last year. I will not vote to spend hard-earned American tax dollars in foreign nations when people are hurting back home. When my constituents are telling me that they want reassurance on gas prices, inflation, and our own southern border. The plain truth is that Ukraine cannot join NATO, and we can only defend NATO nations. We win when America is strong, and so does the rest of the world. We win when we put America first and globalism last.
That was her address of the American nation she's doing on her Facebook Live, because I guess she's trying to be like a president. So she, of course, is talking about all this, and no one can forget what her fellow Representative Madison Cawthorn said about Zelensky as she's talking about what we can't do and what her constituents don't care about when it comes to this invasion. Let's watch, if you don't remember, what Cawthorn said.
Send Stinger missiles over to them so they can defend themselves better, but remember that Zelensky is a thug. Remember the Ukrainian government is incredibly corrupt and it is incredibly evil, and it has been pushing woke ideologies, and it really does the new woke world.
Another name on the list was Thomas Massie, and he did tweet a little bit of his explanation as to why he was doing this, but it was a little bit aggressive and angry. Let's go to this. He said this was slipped into the Russian sanctions bill on pages 19, 20, and 21. It gives the president broad authority to sanction virtually anyone, anywhere in the world, whether they're connected to Russia or not. Interventionists at the State Department are doing the happy dance now. So there's multiple pages he put as far as the tweet from 3 pages. The first one I want to show you guys specifically about how his explanation as to why President Biden can now sanction anyone, anywhere, for anything in the world, as you saw him explain there. Let's look at that. Closer view of what he figured no one's gonna read. Starting in line 9 there. In general, the president may impose the sanctions described in subsection B with respect to any foreign person that the president determines based on credible information. One is responsible for or complicit in or has directly or indirectly engaged in serious human rights abuse, is a current or former government official or a person acting for or on behalf of such an official who's responsible for or complicit in or has directly or indirectly engaged in corruption, misappropriation of state assets, expropriation of private assets for personal gain. It goes on and on about corruption and human rights violations. Things that then it said at the beginning, once it's credible and has been confirmed, he can do those things. But it doesn't matter about facts. Last thing, so Representative Grothman, who I pointed out is another one of these 8 Republicans, he took that connection as far as Biden can do anything he wants. And he took it to mean also with anti-choice and also with LGBTQ community. Watch this.
Say that's with regard to 2 areas, LGBTQ agenda and abortion. Already when you talk to people from Eastern Europe, the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic in particular, Central and South America, people are mad because the United States throws around its substantial economic weight to fight the Christian beliefs of these countries. The president will have a new tool in his toolbox if he wants to force other countries to adapt the views of abortion and the views of LGBTQ that are the views, quite frankly, of the left wing of the Democrat Party. The president will be able to threaten the parliaments, or for all I know, lobbyists, demonstrators in foreign countries by saying you can't get a visa to the United States because we don't like your stand on abortion. We don't like your stand on LGBT.
It's a pretty definitive statement he had there. Most likely, I don't know, maybe, I think.
Yeah, so it's hard not to dislike Republicans. So Grothman's arguments were completely made up. There's never been a single case of that. Nobody's ever said that it's going to be used for that. He just wants to bring everything back to the culture wars. Yep. Oh, Ukraine, Russia, who cares? My voters hate gay people. They don't want you to have an abortion. They want to be able to control women's bodies. So I'm going to bring that back to this. Is it related? I don't care that it's not related. I'm just going to bring it back anyway because all I know is culture wars. And by the way, don't ever talk about the economy because we suck on the economy and we don't want anybody finding out that the Republican Party is entirely for the rich, right? Then you get to the immoral portion of the party like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So she comes out there and she's like, who cares about Ukraine? My voters only care about gas prices and they're incredibly selfish. And if Putin is murdering all the Ukrainians, we don't care at all. Now, I don't believe her. And the polling indicates that it's not true even in her district. But she's basically projecting her evil onto her voters and saying, I don't care, it doesn't affect me at all. And they're all talking about, oh, woke. Well, what are you guys talking about? Why is Ukraine more quote unquote woke than Russia? Well, what's your evidence for any of that? It doesn't matter, they're just trying to redirect your hatred towards Ukraine for no reason. And Christian beliefs that Grothman was talking about, Russia's Christian and so's Ukraine. What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. They don't even try to make sense. And then that leads us to Cawthorn. He called Zelensky a thug and he said that he was incredibly evil. Why are you attacking Zelensky when his country was clearly invaded? Or do you guys have you don't have eyes? It doesn't make any sense. Look guys, we're progressives on this panel. We're against military intervention overall and specifically here because it would be against a nuclear power. We do not want military intervention. That doesn't mean you should do nothing and go, who cares? Let them murder the Ukrainians. No, you could have balance. I know for Republicans that's super hard because you'd have to use your mind and you'd have to use judgment and go, oh, maybe we could do economic sanctions against oligarchs, but not start World War III. Oh, I don't know, I need everything to be black and white. Who do I hate? I know it's confusing for you guys, we'll talk slow. And then finally, the most important part is that the Russians then take things like what Cawthorn says, what Tucker Carlson says on a nightly basis, and they replay it on Russian TV as propaganda. And a lot of people, I think, make the mistake of thinking, so what? It's obvious propaganda. No, it's propaganda because it isn't obvious to the local population. They paint it as, look, even the Americans agree with us. Their leaders are corrupt and evil and on the side of the evil Ukrainians who must be murdered. But brave Americans know the real truth, and then they'll play to Fox News and it'll seem legitimate. They'll play tapes from congressmen and congresswomen and it'll seem legitimate. In fact, here's the foreign minister for Russia making our case for us. Here, watch him.
We understood long ago that there is no such thing as an independent Western media. If you take the United States, only Fox News is trying to present some alternative point of view. So it's a war. And it's a war which involves the methods of information terrorism. There is no doubt about this.
So there's a war criminal saying, attaboy, Fox News, way to make our case for us. So it's not us saying it, it's the Russian foreign minister saying it. All right, Amy, your thoughts.
Well, the irony of their position right now does not escape me. Where was the outrage and telling us to leave Afghanistan? Where was the outrage then? And they were all saying we should stay, we should stay. And for me as a military spouse, I mean, I was on the phone with my husband as he was actually there taking people out of the country. He was there during that time period. And hearing how they're actually saying that we should not be leaving, but now it's the opposite. We're okay with war here, and then if we're going to go there and we're going to talk about spending our money and helping countries, let's talk about this. Helping Saudi. Let's talk about what's happening there and the Yemen people. Right? They're choosing. The things to care about whenever it just seems whatever the opposite the party is doing, the Democrats. And it's not really an argument in good faith.
Yeah, and by the way, Amy, that's such a great point. Because if we want to do it in good faith, progressives don't, look, I don't like Republicans. The Republican leaders, I don't like them. I think they're bad people. But if they want to vote with us on principle against the war in Yemen by cutting off funding to Saudi Arabia, I'm in. Let's go vote together. We're reasonable, we're practical as progressives, right? We just want the right results. But if you come then and go, nah, I don't care about the people of Yemen, just let them die, and let's keep giving money to Saudi Arabia. But let's not give money to the Ukrainians. Let's give weapons to the Saudis, who are Muslim fundamentalists, who, by the way, the other day, in one day, executed 81 people. They usually do it with a sword. It's not very different than ISIS. And Republicans say, they're great. Let's give them money and weapons. But the Ukrainians, who are, by the way, I mean, if you care about this stuff, and I know Republicans say they care about it, Ukrainians are Christians, and they're being slaughtered, and these Republicans turn around and go, I don't care. Don't give them money or weapons. Don't give them any help at all. Does that sound moral to you?
There's no money to be made there. That's really the bottom line. I mean, look, we give all that to Saudi, and then President Trump said it when he was president. He's like, do you know how much money we make off of them? He said it straight up. That's just 2 and 2 is 4. They're not hiding it at all.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.